Hey everybody, Heather Campbell here in the classroom today, and today I have a sweet little card I made using watercolors and stamps. So this is the new Avriel storybook set, and it just has the sweetest little animals and all sorts of stamps to go along with them. And I thought it would be really fun to actually watercolor one of these animals in. Watercolors have been so popular, and I think they just match the sweetness of the set so well. So when it comes to watercoloring, paper is important, and not all papers are the same, and it definitely takes playing around with them to find your favorite. And this is by far my favorite. This is the Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor Cardstock, and I love this. I love it because there is a traditional bumpy side, but then there is also this lovely smooth side, and this is great for stamping. I've tried so many times to get a picture of this, and I just can't ever capture it. So I decided to take a video because this is really what makes or break it. And why I like it is because when I intermix my cardstock, you can see the difference. That smooth side, you can barely tell that it's a different type of cardstock. And that's what really is important to me. So when it comes to stamping with watercolors, you want to make sure you get a waterproof ink. So I use the Hero Arts Hero Hues Black ink. This is waterproof. It works great for me. I love that it's nice and dark, and then I can always get a nice crisp impression. And you can see here that on this smooth side of that watercolor cardstock, it looks just like any other stamped cardstock. One last thing to make sure of is that your inks are dry. So you can heat set them. I went ahead and heat set it here, but now that I know my inks are dry, I am ready to start adding color to my stamped images. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Distress markers. I am going to use frayed burlap and antique linen for the most part. And you can do this just by adding these inks right to an acrylic block or a craft mat. I use the lid to my little container and I just bring some of the ink out onto it, and then I use my water brush and I just bring water right onto it, and I kind of create a little watercolor right there. And then I always start with less color and then add more. It's easier for me to work to a darker than work from darker to lighter. But really, watercolors are very forgiving, and it just takes practice and playing and having fun. So here I'm just adding color, and I like to make sure I get a different, little splotches of darkness here or there. And again, I'm going to be mixing in some darker colors as well. So I'm just having fun with this and adding color. Okay, so now I'm going to add my frayed burlap in. I'm doing the same thing to bring that darker color in. So the darkest color I'm going to add in here is Gathered Twigs, and this is what I'm going to use to create those little dots on the back, and then also the shading around the tail and the ears, and then the belly and legs. So now I'm thinking this looks pretty darn good. I'm just kind of blending out the colors and taking a peek at it, and I'm ready to go with the deer. So now I'm going to color in my butterfly, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be using worn lipstick and picked raspberries. And I'm just going to start with the lighter color and then work my way darker the exact same way I did with the deer. Just coloring some of the ink out onto my lid and then bringing in my water. Alright, so with my lighter color complete, I'm ready to go in and add my darker. And I'm just doing the same thing that I did with the brown with the deer, and just going back in and bringing that darker color in. And then the last little finishing touch is just to color in that rest of the butterfly, because I want that to be the darkest. Okay, so the next thing I like to do is something I've learned over the course of time, and that is to check my colors. And here I'm noticing that my butterfly is actually a little off. So I'm going to it's easy fix. I just am going to take a little bit of red and go ahead and add it in the exact same way. And I believe this is Festive Berries or something like that. I'll link it up. And I'm just going to go in and add it and just try to get a little bit more of a coral hue versus the pink. And I'm really loving the color that it's turning out to be. I think this is perfect. So I'll just check that against the paper to make sure we're on the right track. This has definitely saved me more than once on checking colors when I'm still in the process of coloring. Okay, so with everything finished coloring, now I am ready to die cut my little stamped images out. So these are the Avriel Storybook Coordinating dies, and they cut perfectly. You just line them up against that stamped line. And one thing I like to do is I like to secure mine with a little bit of washi tape. This just helps it from shifting when I'm running it through my Big Shot, and it has definitely saved me from starting over on a project. So I just use little bits and I just secure it right to the outside edge of the die to the paper, And it would be fine if I secured it to the stamped image itself. Now, different washi tips are different, so just kind of got to be careful. And I'm going to do the same thing with the butterfly, and then I can run it through my Big Shot. Now I have my images all cut out, and I love how it does all the fussy cutting for me, and it gives me the perfect line around my image. All right, so now we have the deer and the butterfly all trimmed and ready to go, and we can begin working on the rest of the card. So my idea was to use this deer and the butterfly on this new W+9 wreath die. This is the spring wreath die. I love the wreath, and then it has all these little flowers. And I was going to cut the wreath out of vellum and the flowers to match the butterfly. So I'm going to go die cut it, and I have all my pieces of paper here. So I'm going to die cut it, and then I just pop them out. They pop out really easy with a needle if they get stuck. All right, so for my card front, I am going to use this Hero Arts wood grain stamp, and I'm going to stamp it with soft sand ink. And what I do when I stamp a stamp like this is that I bring my paper to the stamp, and then I just use my fingers to press down on that to transfer the ink, and I make sure I have nice even coverage. But I love this stamp, and I think it's just the perfect background for this wreath and the deer. So I want this to be loosely secured, so I'm just going to secure it in place with a few little glue dots. I like the micro ones. I use them for everything, sequins, all sorts of good stuff. To secure my vellum wreath to the glue dot, I just use a little bit of finger pressure and just push right onto the glue dot, and it just transfers right along over. So once I get 3 or so, I'm just going to secure it to my wood grain card front. And I want a little gapping there. I definitely want some dimension. So now it's time to work on the sentiment. And I am going to go ahead and use this banner right here. This is from the Avery Build-A-Banner stamp set. And I am going to first stamp the banner, and then I'm going to add a sentiment. And I just kind of tweak the sentiment around. Just by hands, I'm able to curve it and get a good, nice match to the banner curve itself. Okay, so then I can die cut it, and it's just the same as the storybook dies. This is the coordinating Build-A-Banner Avery die, and I just washi tape it, and then that secures it while I run it through my Big Shot. And then I can position it to my card front. And I'm just going to use my Cool Tack foam adhesive dots, and I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. And you can see I've recycled my paper here. And so I just pop that right onto it, and then I just work my way up, and I'll secure the deer and then the butterfly the exact same way. All right, so now it's time to add the flowers, and I'm just going to use my tweezers and bring them to the glue dots and just use my finger pressure to transfer that glue dot on over. And then I'm just going to bring them over to my wreath, and I'm just going to do that starting with the lighter colors and then adding on the darker colors. And I've jumped ahead here, but it's just the same technique over and over. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use a green wreath that I cut out, and I'm going to cut out some little leaves from it, just chopping off the little petals and then just tuck them on in. So jumping ahead again, I'm just going to add my last little petal here, and I'm just shoving them in again, using that glue dot to secure them. All right, so now I've gone ahead and mounted my card front to a craft card base, and now I'm going to add some glitter from my Wink of Stella glitter marker. And this is just the clear one, and I'm just pretty much adding it everywhere. And then I like to always pause, see where I'm at, and then I'll go back in and add more, just to get the final amount of glitter that I really want there. So then the last thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and tie a twine bow, and because I can fuss with a bow forever, I did not capture that on here. Thanks so much for watching the video today. Sorry it was a little long, but felt like it had a lot of good information. So have a great day. Bye.